Arraignment of suspended governor of the central bank again stalled amid reports that a possible plea bargain is in the works. Acting Inspector General of Police Kayode Gbetukun inaugurates first police response unit in Lagos. Welcome everyone to Politics Today. I am Terry Ikumi. Now, amid reports that suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Emefiele, is seeking a plea bargain in a criminal suit filed against him by the federal government, his arraignment today was stalled again as the matter was not listed on the cause list of the court. And no reason was given for the non-listing of the matter as lawyers to both parties were absent in court. The suspended CBN governor was charged alongside Saada Tuyaro, an employee of the Apex Bank and her company, April 1616 Investment Limited, on 20 charges bordering on procurement fraud, conspiracy and conferring corrupt advantages. An Abuja High Court presided over by Justice Hamza Muazu had fixed the 23rd of August for the arraignment of the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and his co-accused, an employee of the central bank, Mr. Saada Tuyaro, who is said to have taken ill just before the arraignment on Thursday, the 17th of August, 2023. Now, the Acting Inspector General of Police, Kayode Gbetukun, has inaugurated the first police response unit in Lagos. The unit is expected to bridge the gap between the police and residents with swift response to emergency. Mr. Gbetukun also addressed police officers and men in the Lagos Command on strict adherence to standard procedure and good conduct while fighting crime in the state. Well, from that, let's go to your daily political roundup.
Governor Ahmed Yahya of Sokoto State has charged the new appointed state commissioners to be ready to adhere to the principles of due process and dedication to service. Governor Aliyu made the call shortly after swearing in the 25 commissioners at a ceremony in the government house.
All files must go through approved channel for proper documentation. Similarly, government files and documents must not be released to unauthorized persons.
Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak of Kwara State is promising to ensure equitable distribution of relief materials in the state. Governor Abdurazak stated this during the inauguration of the State Committee for the Distribution of Palliatives.
We have set up this committee to make the process of distributing the palliatives a non-partisan, transparent, participatory, and to be as credible as possible.
Governor Umar Eno of Akwa Ibom State has assured that his administration will put in place adequate measures to ensure that palliatives meant to reduce the suffering of the people as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy will be given to the right people. Governor Eno gave the assurance in Uyo while addressing stakeholders from all local government areas of the state.
The palliative must not end in Uyo, must not end in local government, must find its way to the villages so that the villagers can benefit.
The Ebonyi State National and State Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Abuja has reserved judgment in the petition filed by the candidates of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), Mr. Michael Nachi, and the Labour Party candidate, Mr. Linus Okorie, who are challenging the declaration of the candidate of the APC, Mr. Dave Umahi, as the winner of the Ebonyi South senatorial seat. The petitioners are asking the tribunal to nullify the election of the APC candidate on the grounds that the former governor did not score the majority of valid votes cast in that election. Ahead of the November 11 governorship election in Imo State, youth groups across 27 local government areas of the state, under the aegis of Obi Bright Movement, have declared their support for the governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the state, Mr. Obinna Ekwebelem. At a news conference in Owerri, the Imo State capital, the leader of the group, Mr. Richard Anyakoha, says it is expedient to support a youthful candidate who will have the interests of the people at heart and create an enabling environment for their prosperity.
You don't need leaders that would, overshadow themselves with armored tanks and gunmen that are not accessible. Some people who have attained the level of success that he has attained would just unnecessarily shut the door and unnecessarily become inaccessible, but he is accessible.
Welcome back. Now, yesterday we started a conversation on setting the agenda for the new cabinets. We're taking them one after the other, ministry by ministry, to ascertain the qualifications of each of the appointed ministers, compare that with the positions they now occupy and the expectations of them. Tonight, I am joined by a security expert and development analyst, Dr. Roy Okidiegbe. He joins us virtually via Zoom. Welcome to Politics Today, Doctor.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I'm also joined virtually by Professor Joy Ezilo, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria with vast experience in issues of development. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you so much, Terry.
And in the studio, our Rafsanjani, the executive director of CISLAC, is here with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
As they say, ladies first. We're looking at the cabinet and trying to set an agenda. So I'll just begin with Professor Joy Ezilo. I know that you're very passionate about matters of women and equality or equity, as you like to put it. But before that, let's take it one after the other. Let's begin with the Ministry of Power now. The expectations with regards to power are really high, considering that it is very important to development in any country, and Nigeria has not been lucky in that regard. Now, the Minister of Power is Adebayo Adelabu. He is a chartered accountant. Our concern as Nigerians is how qualified this person is for that position. So I'd like to ask you, first of all, what your thoughts are with regards to whether a person is qualified with regard to paper qualification for a position or perhaps experience. You've seen the list of ministers and you've also followed the concerns of Nigerians. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, we can make a distinction. Obviously, we have mismatch also in terms of ministerial appointment and portfolios in particular. But again, sometimes we shouldn't lay too much emphasis on it, but rather people's track record, competence, and then expertise in other field can also enable you get on work in certain sector. But obviously, people may worry and say, what is chartered accountant doing there? And there are a number of other appointments like that. But I think it's important now to distinguish that, because it's an administrator. If you're a good administrator, and if you keep to the desiderata or the all that one, the criteria of good governance or efficient or running efficient, result-oriented administration, then you will still get there, because first will be to understudy whatever ministry you're sent to. If you're not an expert in that field, you need to quickly get yourself up to speed, understand the workings, be humble, humility, enough to learn. If you're ready and willing to learn, you will learn the rope. And before you know it, maybe start talking and you think he's an expert in power or an engineer, in that area, in electrical engineering. So I think it's about humility and learning, ability to learn very quick and adapt, and then also having all other characteristics of a good leader or administrator. Because there are many administrators, there will be experts, and then you have to put on your team. Where they will have problem is that if that is not your area of competence, and then you go and surround yourself again with technical team or advisors or people full of people who are not competent in that area. That's number one mistake. So they will have to fill in that gap by getting experts and having a core technical team that will aid the minister to work and to deliver in that area, because Nigeria have failed woefully in terms of power production, power delivery over the years. Ministers upon ministers, including engineers, who have said, we will deliver, we will do this. At the end of the day, they didn't get the opportunity. And one minister then that we thought could have delivered, but unfortunately, whatever is Nigerian factor, who was an expert in that field, I think Professor Naji, was not even allowed to function. And before you know it again, he was thrown out. So, but apart from that, I think there are also other ministries like that. Okay. And now you see overlap with others. So we see.
So, Prof, you talked about Professor Bath Naji, whom you expected so much of, but couldn't. You said in your own words he wasn't allowed to. So we will come to some of those bureaucratic bottlenecks that hinder implementation of certain policies of government. But let me go to Dr. Roy now. I know you're a security expert, but I understand that in matters of security, it is always important to make sure that qualification and expertise are emphasized on in the military sphere. But when we look at the wider context of things with regard to the appointments that you've seen, and specifically, do you agree with Professor Joy Ezilo that perhaps paper qualification may not be necessary in this regard?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. You cannot put me on a spot by saying, do I agree? So we'll not be in contest. Let me come from my own perspective, because women are very powerful, Now, if I look at economic viability and I look at infrastructure sustainability. Now, economic viability means that we want our power system, power supply, modus operandi to help the economy also. And infrastructure for the power system is to make sure that we put the right structure in place. The transformers, the connectivity, and all the other necessities are in place. Now, so this will tell you closely that an organization without someone qualified by paper in the first instance. Let me look at all the magnitude of universities in Nigeria. Let us look at all the students that have left the universities that read electrical engineering for the past 30 years and have scored beyond limit in that course. Let us look at Nigerians in diaspora that read electrical engineering in Nigerian universities and are making waves in diaspora. So let's look at our population. We have enough and more than enough electrical engineers, electronic engineers that are supposed to hold this office. That said, I would also like to look at the economic viability. So once you have someone there that can look at infrastructural sustainability because he's trained, he's schooled, he's certificated in that environment, then how do you make it economically viable? That is where you will need the chartered accountants and all those other money spinners to be under his department, to be telling him about all of that. But the infrastructure brings the money. So I agree with what we have done in Nigeria currently, with most of the ministerial appointments not befitting the seat and the organ of office that they hold. Thank you.
Mr. Rafsanjani is the Executive Director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. You push for a development just at every level. You've heard both of them speak on this, and to an extent it almost seems as though it is okay to put certain persons in positions as long as they surround themselves with the right people. Do you agree?
Well, I think first and foremost, let me say that in Nigeria, political appointment are done basically not necessarily on the basis of merit or capacity or any ability to deliver. It is basically, a reward for political work that individual has done, and the government will do that. Otherwise, you have millions of Nigerians who are well educated in different fields of endeavor, and if you really want to succeed as a government, you can, give political appointment, be a political advisor, and all these kind of things. Not an agency that require you first to be knowledgeable about it, to be an expert about it, so that people that are surrounding you, they know that they are actually dealing with even their superior, and there will not be any attempt to undermine whatever you are doing. But when it is only political, consideration in the appointment, and in some cases where a lot of allegations are on the basis of procuring those appointments, then definitely we will have a deficit in terms of how well that person is going to perform, because a lot of sabotage will also come. But more importantly, the machinery of corruption in wherever you are, if you are not well prepared, will also undermine your effectiveness. So for me, it is important that if you are sending somebody to...
That's specifically power, which we're discussing.
If you are sending somebody to power, honestly, I think it would do better if you bring in, an expert in that field, so that he or she will be able to ensure that whatever that is reforms that is needed, he actually has knowledge about it, and he can supervise it. Because ministers, actually, they are more of like supervisors. They are political heads of the ministry. And if you are lacking basic knowledge on that particular issue, then there might be challenges, because you may not get those competent, qualified assistants. You will also replicate that appointment of people that have worked for you. So, in other words, in some places where we know all over the world, people who are experts are allowed to, take charge. Where you need to bring in, political consideration cannot be on sensitive issue like the electricity. I am telling you, if they have consulted with the minister, they gave the minister of power, and they gave him option, I'm sure he will rather go to where he can perform, where he can, really be authoritative in that field. But because it is a political appointment he has to take, he has to run with it, So the only mitigation factors here is to really bring in those technical experts that can guide the honorable minister, Otherwise, it is just a plan to make him to fail.
Well, power is a very major problem in the country. Over the years, there have been privatization processes that have failed. There's the $16 billion pumped into the power project, which the Buhari administration had said it would probe. There's no report for that. The World Bank estimates that 85 million Nigerians are cut away from electricity. There are also concerns with regards to the various electricity supply chains, from generation to transmission to distribution. There are concerns. So the challenge ahead of the minister is enormous, as you said, as you know. So when you look at this minister and you question his qualification, do you have any hope? Because at the end of the day, he sits with the president during a FEC meeting to speak on issues of power.
Let me tell you the truth. As long as you do not have a radical reforms in the power sector, vis-a-vis the corruption that has embedded the Ministry of Power, you will not be able to perform. Even if we bring an angel, he will not do anything. Because, like she rightly mentioned, an expert was brought, but he was sabotaged. The corruption system made it impossible for him to perform. Look, National Assembly organized a public hearing around the spending on electricity, and energy. And the contractors, they came, they confessed that they collected full payment and they've never been to site. And those people have gone free. Nobody arrested them. Nobody forced them to refund the money. So Ministry of Power is a very lucrative place, and a lot of juicy contracts are happening, and it is going to happen again. And if you do not really have people who have a strong character, people who are also determined to ensure that they leave something behind them positively, then it will just be one of those things that public officials do. Okay. They go to a place and help themselves, help their friends and associates. But I believe that there should be National Assembly is supposed to also be strong enough in its oversight to ensure that all government policies and programs and legal framework are properly executed, including the budget that they are going to approve for the Ministry of Power. So if the National Assembly play its own oversight role very well, and if there is a regular update coming from the minister, I think maybe perhaps we will be able to know the direction we are heading to in terms of concrete reforms in the electricity and the power.
Let's go to Professor Ezilo now. Coming from what Mr. Rafsanjani has said, I'd like you to expatiate on that bureaucratic bottlenecks that you talked about. And perhaps the minister listening now would understand what he's going to face and know how to, scale that up.
Yeah, I think the minister is a Nigerian. He's been living in Nigeria, and he knows that Nigeria, our slogan has become never expect power. I think every average Nigerian understands the problem. And for me, number one problem there is corruption. Corruption is deep-rooted. It's hydra-headed. And in that power sector, it's where it is. So when my colleague and comrade said that he's sure if the minister has been asked, he may say, don't post me there. I laughed. I said, I don't think so. Because everyone wants to go to where they think the money is. And this is where we needed to hold even a public hearing to know what has happened to billions of dollars, if not trillions of naira, that have gone into this sector. And we are doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. But that's why I said now we've got an expert who wanted to reform the place. Nobody wanted. And then the same corrupt system, just made sure that he didn't survive that environment. And he came in from diaspora, Prosobat in Nigeria, and was already acclaimed. And I agree that there are a number of experts in Nigeria that we can get. But anyway, it's prerogative of the president, and the president has made his choice. Now what we need to do is to set agenda and to say there is a major shift in paradigm, and that in the world we live in today, what is uppermost now is accountability. Accountability. We want effective, efficient government that is transparent. So if the minister has a vision, is his vision to bring us out of darkness? Never expect power, always to having power and being informed. Maybe your power, electricity will go for just 1 hour or 2 hours. It depends. If he doesn't have that vision, then we're not going anywhere. If he's not a person of that character and determination, we're not going anywhere. So he must be responsive to the need. And again, the chief executive who engaged him, by the way, the buck stops with him. It also depends on what is his vision to Nigeria with regard to all of these key sectors that has also put us as, and I don't know whether we can still say we're a developing country, because you hear today we want to lift 130 million Nigerians out of poverty. How can you even do that? Let's not even go into that one. And the same thing, you want to create 100 million jobs. You want to create, where can you do that without energy, without power, without tapping in on innovation, without taking advantage of advanced technology in this kind of thing and power production? So I think that is really the bane of the problem. And Nigerians are very angry now. They are hungry, and the expectations are huge. And there is no minute to wait. So they better get to work and be as transparent as possible. If they get in their hands onto procurement and want to have a gig for every, then that may be their interest. It depends on what purpose they've come. But I think, like I said, despite the fact that we can say we would have preferred, I think anybody, there's no doubt about that, would have wanted an expert in the field.
Okay.
But then we are beyond that, and we have to face reality with what we have. And that's where my contribution centers, because this is also an era of renewable energy. And you can see there is another ministry of also including that, even marine, even the issue of blue economy has a bit of that. There is also Ministry of Digital. So all of this we have to look at, and see what they are contributing.
Okay, let me go to Dr. Hidiegbe now. And it would be perhaps an advice to the Minister of Power, considering how important that sector is to everything in the country. And maybe around just where Professor Ezilu left it, with regards to alternative sources of energy to improve power generation in the country.
Okay, thank you very much. You see, if you read from Aeon's intelligence, Beacon, and then Bulwark, you will see all of those intelligence information cascading down to the fact that every Nigerian is culpable in terms of compromise. So the degree is different. Now, if we look at power, up to the cables that are laid at the transformers, they are being vandalized by Nigerians that are supposed to enjoy power supply. So if you go up to the transmission, the supply, the generation, same thing up to vendors. As Madam has said, why can't we look at accountability and culpability? If we put those two things on the table and call the chief executives, the president, and say, based on ethnicity, political affiliation, religious beliefs. Let us look at accountability, culpability. And the president calls the Ministry of Justice and says, I want accountability and culpability. Every ministry will adjust themselves because Nigerians also will adjust themselves because we will go back to the era where people that steal as little as a ball from someone's domain or a cable from a transformer will be seen to be facing justice and will be seen to be taken through the criminal justice system. So the criminal justice system serves as a deterrent. And every legal person in Nigeria's judicial system is the oath of office, lives by the oath of office, and addresses criminality and corruption by the oath of office. Because if you look at the power sector, it is one of the backbone of security of any country. Supply of data, lighting up of unpoliced areas, lighting up of darkened areas in the night, use of CCTV cameras, use of criminal recording system, intrusion devices. All of these security gadgets work with power, and power supply must be produced and supplied as the economic value of who is going to provide that security gadget. So I will begin to narrate, give a narrative for the minister, since they have already been on budget, to begin to look at how to partner with the judiciary on the owners of the criminal justice system. And the chief executive, as Madam said, which is the president, to quickly help to remove all tentacles on culpability and the criminal justice system. If we can do that, the minister himself will enjoy his office. Why? People will work to the tenets of their roles and responsibility.
I'm going to stay with you, Dr. Kijegbe, and let's talk about the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development, which is now being manned by Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who is a former Minister of State for Labor and Employment. What are your thoughts on him in that position? Because that's one of those appointments that's been raising eyebrows.
The whole world is going global on security. If you look at the crisis in Ukraine, it is because of security. The same Ukraine has stood against Russia for a period of time that has shown a lot of observers. Now, Ukraine is deploying air defense system. Well, it's deploying air defense system against all the countries around Israel. You want to look at Nigeria, and you are ascribing our aerial defense system to someone that is interested in fighting labor mismanagement. See, we all know that most of our lawyers are concerned with properties. Some are concerned with different kinds of legal infringement. Festus Keyamo, the minister, the sitting minister now, has on top of matters on especially like labor issues, fighting for people. I grew up knowing that family name as one fighting for people's rights infringement. But the aviation ministry is a defense system, sir. That ministry, you see, could capture a lot of interchange of intelligence that would help people to understand that being in that office can give you an overview and help you leverage on the opportunity to feel light on so many command and control systems, so many aviation defense systems. A plane, commercial plane, flying from Lagos to Abuja, it's a security risk. If the wrong people get on that plane, control of that plane, has penetrated to the extent where we hear that they are bombing planes. They claim they are bombing planes with AK-47, but so many of us are saying it's not possible. But then, we have Nigerians who enter the plane and they directed it in Nigeria here. What if they directed that plane to the marketplace, to our store in Abuja, or to a government office, to a peaceful national stadium in any state, and kill a lot of people? So we want to look at aviation. We should begin to look at the global threat of aviation security system, and we should begin to discuss on that direction.
Very well. That's a lot of things you've said, and I would like my other guests to respond to it, but that would be after the break. Please stay with us, and we'll be right back on Politics Today. Welcome back to Politics Today. We're still setting an agenda for the new cabinets. I've been speaking with Mr. Awa Rafsanjani, who's the Executive Director of CISLAC, and also Professor Joy Ezilo, who is a Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Dr. Roy Okidiegbe, who is a security expert. Now, just before the break, we were talking about the Ministry of Aviation and concerns regarding whether or not Mr. Keyamo is fit to be in that position. Mr. Roy gave some really detailed explanation or concerns with regards to his appointments. In his own words, Mr. Keyamo is not fit to be in that position. He believes that the Aviation Ministry is a security system, and someone who understands that system should be in that position. Mr. Rafsanjani, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my first impression was that Baba Tinubu brought in Festus Keyamo just to disgrace him, because after attacking and challenging Tinubu, for falsification of documents, and now Tinubu appointed him as spokesperson.
But that's politics. Politics is over.
Yeah, but there's what we call political integrity. That's what we call political integrity. If you are solely believe that this person is corrupt and you go to the extent of even taking legal action against him, then you have no any reason to come back and say that you are going to take his own appointment. So, but it has happened. Tinubu has successfully disgraced him and exposed him as somebody who is just interested in position. Otherwise, Festus, on principle, should have declined accepting ministerial appointment.
Spokesperson.
You remember, during when he was spokesperson, we also advised him not to even take that.
Well, let's leave the politics of it and focus on whether or not he's
the real issue is that
to be
the Ministry of Aviation require someone with strong character and understanding of this issue, particularly regarding the issue that the last speaker has spoken about, the security implication on that, and also not somebody with temperament that, you can easily send away even airlines, because when you look at the way and manner in which sometimes my friend, former comrade, versus the way he does his things, sometimes can really create even chaos. Even himself and Fabio, you remember, when he was his junior minister, they never had it, easy. So what I'm saying is that this, in spite of the fact that he's a lawyer and he can, be a minister, I believe that they should have given him something that is less controversial. In the last election, the European Union, in their report, they quoted the character of Keyamo as someone whose, utterances, whose action were tantamount to undemocratic thing. So I think Festus needs to, perhaps, if he is going to continue as Minister of Aviation, need to do some kind of, have some moderation in his approach. He's a very hot-tempered person. He can fire, things like that about character assassination, but just we are talking about a serious, ministry that must be manned by someone with stable mind. So as far as I'm concerned, we have a lot to do in order to ensure that we rescue that aviation ministry, especially as the former minister committed what Nigerians believe as a fraud, do a fake, spending in the name of Nigeria, no Air Nigeria, nothing happened until today. He's moving a free person. So if this is the intention to also replicate that, then we're in trouble.
Okay, let me quickly go to Professor Joy Ezilo now. I think that the issue of aviation is something we may have to sit on a little longer, perhaps not today, probably extend that till tomorrow, because there's so much to talk about. The responsibilities ahead of the Minister of Aviation are huge, and you've listened to them question the qualification or integrity of the man who's been put there now. And when you look at concerns of hiking flight fares, aviation airline operators complaining about aviation fuel and more. There's the concerns about Nigerian air and all that. And then the security situation, as pointed out by Dr. Roy. What do you think about the situation, the aviation situation with regards to the man in that position now?
Thank you. The general insecurity in the country has also made air travel oversubscribed. Because ordinarily people will travel by road. We've seen a lot of kidnappings and everything. Rail also problematic. So it appears that the safest means, and safest in quote, not safest because we have the best of the best, safest in terms of avoiding the road is air travel. So at this stage, it is really important to make the point that even that sector, and aviation, and then our airport and infrastructure is not one that was built bearing in mind the population of Nigeria. So, because if you look at airports we're talking of 100 and something million people or 240 million people, even the Abuja one, the size, the fact that you're coming, only one conveyor this for security pass, then you go there, one cranky elevator, it may not even be working, most of the time it's out of service, the escalators are out of service, and you look at it and say, what is this? Why is Nigeria such a disappointment to the rest of Africa and how things should function? So there is the infrastructural deficit, yet it is one that makes a lot of money in terms of revenue. And that fund, I think, as one of the corrupt agencies, all they know is collect. I don't know what they put back, what they give back to people, to passengers. So you look at the wrong ways. You look at a flight on the way, how long it takes to land one flight and for another to take off. These are things that also require technical skills. I'm also very worried that they added aerospace. And I'm asking, what is that aerospace meant to be? Yeah, we know aerospace engineering. Is it that we're going to start manufacturing Nigerian or start putting things in place to produce? Because I don't get it. We haven't even finished with what is the problem plaguing that sector, and then we added a brand new aspect to that. Is it that we want to start doing aeronautics, astronautical, space? I don't get it. So we need to come back to really define and understanding the basic needs of travelers in Nigeria. There is a lot of issues at the moment.
We're out of time. I'd like to thank you.
Yes, I didn't get that.
We're out of time. I'd like to thank you for your time on the program. And I'm hoping that we can have a conversation on more of this, especially because of women affairs. So I'll call you back. I hope you're obliged.
All right, thank you so much, Eric.
I'd also like to thank you, Mr. Awa Rafsanjani, for your time. And as you can tell, the discussion is not concluded yet. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just before I say goodbye to Dr. Roy Okidiegbe, you had talked about the security situation involved. Or if you could speak as briefly as you can, because we need to move on to another conversation right now. Should the appointment of Mr. Keyamo be revoked, and what kind of person should occupy that position?
Okay, we are talking briefly, and we are still on the spot, as your usual way. Okay, now, my concern is this. Apart from every other thing that has been raised, they have told you about the temperament right now. Okay, let's look at intelligence dissemination on air travel. Do you think the current office of the minister held by Keyamo would be approachable by the DSS, by the Air Force? The Air Force is like a commander on its own at the airport. Do you think they will be approachable? So I think some of these ministerial appointments, along the line, they will be reviewed. I don't want to use the word revoked, but I advise our president and our administration to review some of these appointments and quickly save Nigeria from the dilemma that is before us.
I'd like to thank you very much, Dr. Okidiegbe, for your contribution on the program. And I thank you very much, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
All right, let's move on to something else now. The National Bureau of Statistics is set to unveil its National Nigeria Labor Force survey. It's a very important one to employment statistics, so we're being joined now by a man who was part of that process and who could give us an understanding as to what exactly it is, especially with this new administration and the concerns about improving employment in the country. I'm joined by Mr. Adeyeye Elutade, who is the head household statistics division of the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. I'd like to thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
So quickly, let's talk about the survey that you have planned. What exactly is it? What's the purpose? And how important is it to improving employment statistics in the country?
So thank you so much for that question. So the survey is a Nigeria Labor Force survey, and this is a routine household survey conducted by the National Bureau of Statistics, and this survey is programmed to collect data for labor market indicators for planning and monitoring. So basically, that's what the survey is about.
How important is it, as I asked, to the employment statistics?
Yes, the labor force survey, it will enable the policymakers to plan and to monitor their program by making use of the data produced for each of these indicators for the labor force survey.
Now, I understand that there's a new methodology that you're employing for this. So what is it, and why is it important to change the old one?
Well, there is need for us to move to the new methodology because presently, as we know, there is new guideline on ground, and this guideline was made available by the International Labour Organization, and we all know that this is the body that is in charge of labor issues or labor statistics. And apart from that, this guideline, Nigeria was a signatory to it when this, when this initiative come up in Vienna, because that's the headquarters of labor, International Labour Organization. And then apart from that, in MBS, we always align our data production to international best practice. And that is what will enable us to be able to compare our data with other countries that have started implementing this same methodology. In Africa, we have some countries that have started it even before now. Like we have like Togo, Ghana, Tunisia, Senegal, Gambia. Most of these countries, Niger, that is even close to us, Benin Republic, most of them have started the implementation of this new methodology. So there is need for us now to start it so that we'll be able to compare our data with this, especially our neighboring countries.
So what are the specific changes that you've made now?
So with this new methodology, let me start from the working age population. In the past, that's the old methodology, the working age population was from age 15 to 64. But now that has been expanded. It is now from age 15 to, above. There's no limit to it now. And you will agree with me that we have some people that are even age 60, 70, that are still economically active, that are still, making impact in the economy. For example, the lecturers, the professors, some of them are consultants. And apart from that, we have some people that own their own business that they are running, that there is no limit to when they are to retire. So all these people now, with this new methodology, we now be able to capture them into the new, into the data production for labor statistics now. Then apart from that, in the past, the old methodology, we normally look at people that worked in the last 7 days for at least 20 hours. Now we are not using 20 hours. Going by the international standard, it is now 1 hour. And you will agree with me that it is not until somebody work for 20 hours before you can say that that person is employed. Originally, if we start from the origin, where we started from, initially it was 40 hours. But you will agree with me that during that time, we have not been capturing, especially those that are teachers. No teachers, they do resume 8, close by 2. So if you multiply that by 5, it will be giving you like, let's say 35 hours per week, which is not up to 40 hours, which was where we started from. So with all this, with demand by various countries, so we now, it was resolved that this hour should be in the, at least 1 hour in the last 7 days. And which means this has been expanded now because, before, if you work less than 20 hours, you are automatically unemployed. Now, before.
Unemployed or underemployed?
Unemployed, before. I'm talking of before.
Okay.
If you work less than 20 hours, you are automatically unemployed. But if you work between 20 hours to 39 hours, you are underemployed.
Okay.
So you understand, in the past. But now, if you work between 1 hour to 39 hours, we see you as underemployed. But only if you still need more time to work. If you are willing to work more. I hope you can...
So 1 to 39 underemployed.
1 to 39, we will see you as underemployed if you are still willing to work for more hours.
So which category is now regarded as unemployed?
So if, like 30, as I said, 1 to 39 hours, you are willing to work more, and you are available to work more, now you are underemployed. So you understand? You are underemployed. But if you are working between this 1 hour to 39 hours, but you are not willing, you are not ready to work for more hours, you are regarded as fully employed. You know, you don't need more hours, which means you are satisfied.
We're almost out of time, but let me quickly ask you this.
Okay.
I'd like to know the relationship between the result of the 2022 last quarter and the one that you intend to release tomorrow.
There's no relationship. There's no relationship because the methodology used to compute that one you are talking of is different from this one. So you cannot use the result that will be coming out tomorrow now to judge whether there is improvement in unemployment rate or not. And as a matter of fact, as from tomorrow, the data that will be released stands to be the baseline data for labor market statistics in Nigeria until this methodology is reviewed again.
Very well
so
done.
It is after that now, it is after the one that will be released tomorrow now, you will now be able to now assess whether there is improvement or not.
Okay.
But as I said, the one that will be released tomorrow, you cannot use it to compare the one released in Q4 of 2020 because they were not computed with, using the same methodology.
Very well then. Thank you very much, Mr. Elutade Adeyeye, the head Household Statistics Division of the National Bureau of Statistics. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to the stats.
Thank you so much for having me on your program.
And that's the time we have for politics today. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow. Goodbye.